My name is Flora Lloyd with the Missoula Current, and I'm here with David Bell, the President and CEO of ALPS. So my first question is, when was ALPS established and what does the business do?
So ALPS was established roughly 30 years ago, and we are now the largest insurer of lawyers' malpractice in the country on a direct basis. And so we are based here in Missoula, Montana, but we do business in 47 states.
Awesome. And how many people do you employ, and are they all in Missoula?
We have about 70, and they are predominantly, but not exclusively, Missoula. We have Georgia and Virginia, and mostly in Missoula. We have Spokane and Billings. So the headquarters is here, and it is a largely centralized workforce here, but we do have some folks sprinkled in other places.
And have your employees all been working from home, and how do you plan to reopen the office safely?
So yes, this company and much of the industry was deemed an essential business from the outset. And so all at once, we moved to a work from home model for all but a small core group of individuals who stayed in the office. And an office designed for more than 70 people, when there are half a dozen people rattling around, the social distancing isn't a problem. And so that really, I think, like so many businesses, we were very pleased. I was very proud of everyone, from our IT folks to the individuals themselves, to convert with almost no notice into a work from home scenario. It's been very effective. We feel like we've been operating at near full proficiency. And then since the initial shelter in place order and the weeks, now months that have elapsed since then, we've had a sprinkling of folks come back in for various reasons. And now we on Monday, the 11th, this past Monday, we had the first staged wave of a multi-stage phase in. And so every Monday we will have another round of folks rejoin the office, and that will run all the way through June 15th. And after June 15th, assuming that there isn't a spike in COVID activity or the other obvious reasons why we could very easily reverse this plan, assuming that doesn't happen, then when we hit June 15th and the last wave of folks have come back, the only remaining people will be those that fall into the vulnerable category. And that's obvious. The vulnerable category is obviously a definition that the CDC and other federal guidance has offered, and the state has adopted, and we've adopted. So, yeah, I think there's a question when that population will be able to return. That's just not a question that I've been prepared to think about in the context of a date yet.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know ALPS had some big plans for change and growth. How have your plans to grow your company changed because of COVID-19?
Well, there have been changes on both sides of the ledger. The most pronounced change is that when the economy basically comes to a standstill, growth ambitions go along with it. And so we clearly have seen the effect of that. Now, one kind of interesting paradox, we're a direct legal malpractice insurer, meaning we don't use agents and brokers generally. So we're making outreach connections directly to predominantly solos and small firms. Those individuals have been home, and we have found that they're far more receptive and have more availability to our outreach efforts. So that's been a little bit of a silver lining, but we clearly have had our growth ambitions significantly blunted in this time period. The other element which we know from historical experience is coming, which is a little unique to us as an insurer, a malpractice insurer, is we know that in the year of a recession and in the 3 years that follow a recession, we see a pretty significant spike in claims. And so we've been preparing, boarding up the windows, so to speak, because we anticipate that as transactions fail and businesses fail and marriages fail and all of the other activities that are traditionally tragically part of a recession, professional service advisors like attorneys get sucked into those problems, and we are called into that as those claims are filed. So we're preparing for the hurricane, which for us is after the fact. I would say that restaurants and concerts and movie theaters, they're leading indicators. We're more of a lagging indicator. And so most of what we've got coming is starting now, the uncertainty, the volatility from the investment markets, our access to capital. That's all back half of the timeline stuff.
Yeah. So, how do you think economic recovery will look like specifically for corporations and businesses within Missoula?
Well, I believe that the Missoula businesses will reflect state and national trends largely, but not entirely. There's a talk of the economic recovery was predicted to be in a V shape, right? It was high, it goes very low in COVID, and then it spikes right back up into being high, making that V. Now they're saying that they're anticipating more of a swoosh, like the Nike swoosh, right? Where the lead up is more gradual and takes longer. If you look at, a more diverse industry than Missoula has had historically, where we were highly dependent on a few industries. Missoula has a much more diverse industry business community now. So I think it'll reflect it in that way. One thing that will be interesting is when things open up entirely, particularly when the 14-day quarantine ends. After 9/11, people tended to travel and vacation by car into rural areas. And it seems like that will happen at least as much, if not a great deal more. And so our national parks and our general recreation opportunities to be distanced from anyone could drive a fairly substantial number of people into our state, which could bring challenges and dangers for reasons that I think are quite obvious to all of us now, but also can bring great opportunity for businesses who can responsibly serve and profit from that type of vehicular activity coming through our state. So I think it's going to be an interesting time. And I think there's probably some more pain to be experienced before there's a renaissance of business. But I think I'm certainly bullish in the intermediate long term, but quite cautious about short-term projections.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have prepared. Thank you for doing this interview.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you asking.